Welcome to We Don't Know.
Yeah, where that is the only thing we do know.
Is that we don't know.
Yeah, so grateful to be joining with all of you. This is coming from a mutual calling or want for collaboration, and so we're so excited to have you join with us. And we really don't know what we're going to be talking about here today.
We don't know.
We're leaving the Holy Spirit in charge, and so you can put any complaints to the Holy Spirit if you don't get what you think you need here. I'm going to share this so all you...
We were literally we were on a hike one day, and we were curious about what was happening to us, and the words, we don't know, just kept coming out of Megan's mouth. So I said, this is the name of our podcast, and so this is where we are right now. We don't know. And the no in O is very different from K-N-O-W. And the implication is that we're saying yes to this attraction, to this curiosity, to this new way of relating. And but it goes beyond that. It's about we don't know. We don't say no.
Well, and even
we're saying yes to life.
Humility of realizing also that, I mean, it does work as kind of double speak. Hey, Matthew, good to see you. It does work as double speak in that we're staying curious enough to realize we don't know. And, you know, for me, I'm a Course in Miracles student, and one of the things that it says is that if we don't want to align the past with the future, then we have to stop defining our present by the past. And so that not knowing with the K, you know, the not know, not saying no, but also recognizing that I don't know, because anything I would know would be some sort of reference to the past. And so us going into this idea of something new also means the humility of saying, we don't know it all. We don't know what's meant to happen. We're not sure where it's going to end up. And what we do know is we're feeling guided to relate to each other in a new way, and then also to communicate and to share.
Right. And who are we to say no to a connection? Who are we, any of us as human beings, when our heart opens and something comes to us? The universe gives us a gift. Who are we to say no to that? And matter of fact, the saying yes is a responsibility that we have. So we're glad that you've joined us, and have any idea what we're going to talk about?
No, it's
Okay,
so
great.
good to see you, Barbara. Good to see you,
Barbara's here,
Madre. Hi, good to see you guys.
The one thing that we do know is that we're all entering a new realm of consciousness. We're seeing everything be restructured, reordered, repaired, broken down, changed, evolving. I know personally I've been on an incredible shedding mission, not by my own choice almost, but a lot of grieving, a lot of letting go, and a lot of opening to what's coming next. And like you, I feel inspired to share a message. And I feel like what we're being asked to come into in ourselves in life right now is a place of greater freedom, greater interpersonal freedom. How can I be free? How can you be free? And how can we be free in our love for one another and still be individually empowered and step forward and be who we are? And there must be people out there that have questions about what does the new age of relating look like in 2021.
Well, and we're, you know, in the new moon. So the new moon is today. And so we're also wanting to set our intentions and what it is we're looking to do and what we're trying to create and what we're trying to let go of, you know, all at the same time. And I think, you know, for us, it's that idea of we want to be contributing to a new paradigm of relating, a new paradigm of us showing up for each other, you know, so talking about the compassionate economy, talking about, you know, the shirt I'm wearing, which says, everybody, you can't read it, but everybody is responsible and nobody is at fault. And so what does it look like for us to really take a lot more accountability for what we're currently experiencing in our individual life, and then also how that is shaping into the collective? So when we look at how we've gotten to wherever we are, we have a couple of options, and one of those options is to believe that we're a victim of circumstances, to think that the external is what's creating how we feel, to feel like we don't have any power. And then the second part is to take complete responsibility without putting anyone else at fault. How is the way I'm choosing to perceive this impacting me at this point? And then based on that, how does it impact the way I relate to others? How does it impact communication? How does it impact letting go?
You can answer that question.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that we're hoping you'll also share with us is, as we're diving into the mystery of something new, what kind of miracles are we trying to allow to happen? What sort of magnificent changes and shifts and new ideas are we willing to let in?
You know, one great question is, are you open to the possibility of a miracle? You know, a lot of times a miracle seems to be too big, too far stretched, too out of the blue. And anybody who's been working with alchemy for long enough knows that a miracle is simply a vibrational match. And if you raise your vibration to a certain point, then immediately you begin to attract new things. But there requires an openness to that before it happens. You've got to have an openness to something new, to that this pattern I'm in, this thought process, this projection, this blaming someone else, this long-term challenge that I've had, or whatever it is, that we can slow down and pause and really be open to something new happening, something else happening, and us moving beyond our limitations and into the age of Aquarius is really what's happening. I mean, there's something beautiful
Barbara,
happening
I see
here.
you. You're my birthday twin, so age of Aquarius, that's you and I.
Yeah.
And Barbara just shared on there too, responsibility, the ability to respond. What is the ability to respond? And the thing is, all day, every day, we are going out and seeking and creating the evidence to believe our narrative. And so that's why responsibility for our own stories. I mean, and so many of us have the same stories with people I've worked with in coaching or in recovery or through my work. What I find is how incredibly common this I am not enough story is. I'm not enough. I'm not lovable. And then we go out into the world and we might even pick reflections of ourselves that prove that. So the new way of relating is also saying the people I draw into my life, whether that be via relationship, whether that be our boss, whether that be our friendships, that those are reflections of ourselves. And what sort of reflections are we creating? Are we picking people in our lives? Are we picking toxic relationships that reflect back to us that story, that we can use them to hurt ourselves? That's the thing. We can use others to hurt ourselves, and that's where the responsibility comes in. Instead of saying, that person hurt me. I'm not saying that people don't do hurtful things, but I'm saying what I make what they do mean about me is what hurts. Because I could just let that be their stuff, their healing, their process, what they need to work through. But instead, I might choose to use them to hurt myself by saying, oh, see, here's another example of how I'm not enough. Here's another example of how I'm not lovable.
Well, you could try to change them. You could keep them in your life for longer than, need be.
Yeah.
Learn the lesson and move on sometimes. But what she's saying is, Barbara says the ability to respond. It's also the ability to not respond. How many times have we gotten ourselves into trouble by making a response, sometimes off the cuff, sort of a reaction, if you will. Sometimes the best thing to do is not to respond at all. And there's a tremendous responsibility, because then you can look at the situation and say, this isn't about me. And I no longer do I wish this to be about me, so I'm just simply not going to respond.
Well, and the other challenge is oftentimes, guilt projects blame. And so I think we can see that sometimes in our responses to others, is that if I see I didn't show up and I didn't live in truth to my values, which is what happens when I'm in a fear state and I'm acting and reacting from a fear state. I'm not saying that, we always act and react from that place, but when I look at all of my character defects, Whether that be, and not that I have any, let's start there. But when I'm trying to manipulate an outcome, when I'm not communicating honestly, when I am not, when I say something that wasn't actually in integrity, that is coming from a fear state. That's coming from a place of trying to control.
Conditioning.
Yeah, it comes from conditioning. But then the challenge is that if I don't go back into that place of responsibility, of honesty, of realignment, if I let that fear continue to go, it can turn into a guilt, which then projects blame. An example of that might be if I mess up at work. Yes, I made a mistake, but then I feel guilty about it. So all of a sudden, instead of it being about I made a mistake, it turns into they didn't train me well enough. This person didn't do that. It turns into us trying to project or to pass off the guilt we're feeling into blaming others, which keeps us in a state of mind that's not in integrity with being loving, with being at peace.
Well, let's go to what that means, really, because the title of this program is We Don't Know. And that implies innocence.
Yes.
So the only way to not be reactive or to be projecting a story or when you're unfulfilled, when you're angry, when you're all the rest of it, you've lost your innocence and you're in a place of blame, whether it's self-blame like you were bringing up or whether it's pointing a finger at someone else.
Yeah.
And so how do we get to innocence? How do we let go and realize everyone's responsible, nobody's at fault.
Everybody's responsible and nobody's at fault. What would it look like if we actually used that idea towards the pandemic, towards the different things that are going on in our life and our experience right now? If we said, everybody's responsible. We have all played in to the idea of capitalism, which is leaving people homeless. We've all played into the idea of all these different things. Everybody's responsible and no one's at fault. And if we actually took that responsibility and realized we could be empowered as a collective to make some change without guilt projecting blame.
And so here we are. We're in a new dawn, or a dawn of a new era of consciousness. Yeah. So how do we go forward in relating intimately, in relating with people that we work with, relating to our families, and what the message that we feel inspired by is that how do any of us know what the future looks like? This has always been true, but we're finding, I think now, more as a collective, more eyeballs and more hearts and more ears going, wow, things are really changing and the future is uncertain. Well, the future's always been uncertain. The only thing we have is this now moment. And there's my cousin, Walton Hall. Hello, Walton. I'm so glad to have you. So how do we go with innocence from this moment forward into a vast new world? And in that innocence, how do we relate to the world that's around us?
Yeah, and I think, one of the things that's been so great about the we don't know statement, we're not saying no, but also we don't know. I mean, we even came on to this live with, we don't know what we're going to talk about. We haven't, that's the one place where it's like maybe the we don't know. Came in, but it did provide this level of innocence and this level of curiosity. Hi, Bree, good to see you. This innocence and this curiosity that's like, oh, this could turn into whatever, and there's no set expectations or all these demands of exactly what it's supposed to look like or how it's supposed to go. And so, if they all hate it, like we told you from the beginning, there was a caveat. We don't know. We don't know.
And we don't know where this relationship's going. And by the way we're doing this is that today's a new moon.
Yes.
So would you like to go forward for the next lunar cycle?
Yes, I would like to go forward.
All right, so
we're not saying no.
Well, what we're doing is we're giving an opportunity for growth. And in every relationship or connection, let's call it a connection rather than a relationship, because we're moving beyond relationship in the way that we've defined relationship and moving more into a connection. So if we have connections and we're a part of an evolving universe, it's always changing, it's always growing. Matthew alluded to this, it's like the conditioning that we received is a gift, right? And so we're breaking from the conditioning. We're seeing a mass break from conditioning now. And it's like, okay, now I don't know what the future holds for us, But if
Yeah.
we lock it into a story or some idea of an antiquated marriage or some kind of relationship, an old paradigm, then all we've done is we've taken the energy that we have and we've locked it somewhere, and we've limited it. So it's
And we've
like
tied it to the past.
Right,
We've
so-
tied it to the past because that's how we've always done it in the past.
That's right. And so
we want something new.
we're exploring, how does this work? So we are in the lunar cycle, and this is a new moon today, and so we know that we're committed for the next lunar cycle. We know that
Yeah.
we're going to be together for 28 days, and we're going to commit to that. We're going to absolutely be present. We're going to be transparent. We're going to communicate needs, wants, desires, insecurities, all of those things.
Yes, yeah.
And we're going to listen. That's part of the communication from the heart. Really, really practice conscious awareness in the way that we communicate and love. And then as we get towards the end of the lunar cycle, a new perspective comes in, and we will know very clearly. And if both of us want to go forward, wow, it's just like we were always going forward. But if one of us or both of us come to a new perspective of, this was a lot of fun. We've agreed on the onset that that's a place to naturally break. And it might be a 1 month break, and it might be a beyond 1 month break. We don't know.
Well, and that's the beauty of it, is that I think so often we get so wrapped up in these ideas of the future or these expectations, and so often in relationships. See, I'm trying to read it
There's
on
Angie.
here. Yeah. Thanks, Angie. And then also Barbara said, in improvisational theater, the first rule is to never say no, because when you say no, you stop the movement of the story. And that's what all of us are
That's
in.
beautiful,
We're in
Barbara.
a story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that example.
How do we love with no story? That's really
Yes.
what we're exploring here. And we don't know how it goes, except that it happens.
Yeah, except that it happens. And then also, I mean, I think so often what can happen when people, come into relating or to a new connection is we're trying to see how well that person matches up to our fantasy of a perceived future. Right? So when we add the idea of perceived future, which is going to look different for everybody's story. Some people are going to be like, marriage is an outcome I want. Children is an outcome I want. A certain religion, I can only end up in a long-term relationship with someone in a certain religious ideology. Or, I mean, insert your stories here. We have these fantasies of the future, and we're just, basically doing a roll cast of like, hey, how much do I think you're willing to change? And how close are you to my idea of a fantasy for the future? And it can create so many expectations and so many grievances. And the grievance is that they're not matching up with our story. And the story existed before they did. So how do we actually get to know how to love a person for who they are and where they're at if we're constantly comparing them to this perceived idea of a perfect future?
So what you're saying is love me as I am.
Yeah.
I like that. Because if you love me as I am, then I'm really forced almost to love myself as I am.
That's beautiful.
And how many
And that's
times
the
in a
goal.
relationship have we not quite loved the other person for who they were? And that can only be a reflection of us not loving ourselves exactly
who
as
we
the way
are.
we are. So if we can love ourselves exactly the way we are, and love the other person in our life or the other persons in our life exactly the way they are, it feels like we ought to be able to create some freedom and some expansion and some adventure, and all kinds of wonderful things can come out of that. If the energy isn't bogged down into storytelling, where does it want to go? What wants to happen from that space?
And I think so often when we do come from that alternative space of, the story and trying to see how much, then we're willing to bargain and make sacrifices. And we think, so then we feed a story about ourselves that in order to get love, I need to bargain or I need to sacrifice. And then that's where the tallying happens, right? Tallying. Well, I did this. I watched that football.
Scorekeeping.
I watched that football game I didn't really care about. So what have you done for me lately, right? And what if we actually allowed ourselves to be incredibly expansive and to have these dynamic relationships and communities where we get to say, I mean, you don't want to go to a hard rock show anytime soon, mosh pit with me?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
And so I'm not going to project that I have to have a partner who is willing. I mean, this is obviously in a perceived future where we're able to mosh pit for that example. But I don't need him to be the one who goes to that Hard Rock show with me and gets into a mosh pit. There's some things that, he might enjoy or love doing that are not exactly my cup of tea, but to truly have love and expansion and freedom, that would look like I want you to have all the connections and all the people in your life trust.
Yeah, let's talk about trust for a second.
Yeah.
Because it's really trusting the self, and it's really taking that sense of trust and merging it with another person's sense of trust. In Course in Miracles, we talk about the holy relationship. In my work, we talk about divine partnership or pristine connection, and it's all the same thing.
Yes.
It's a relationship where you have one entity and a second entity, or two entities, let's call it, and then the third entity being the divine consciousness or the God in the middle.
Yeah, even, the higher, a higher purpose, the higher calling, that it's not just about what are my needs versus what are your needs, and let's try to bargain and sacrifice and try to get somewhere in the middle. It's saying, hey, we are these two entities, these two energies who are connecting from heart to heart, and we're combining our energies for a higher calling, for a higher purpose. We're using our connection to tap into that divine consciousness.
And so how does trust play into that?
Well, I think trust, as it relates to what we were even just discussing, is trusting that you want everybody can get what they want, right? So we can all get what we all want, meaning that it's not about you having to sacrifice and do something that you don't enjoy doing, but you have to trust me enough to know that that connection can happen separately or with another individual, and we get to connect on that level while still maintaining trust.
Yeah. I love that. So the trust, I am the trust is me. The trust lies in the individual. Would you agree with that or not? Yeah. So it's very different going forward to trust than it was before. I feel like as these older ways of relating break down and new ways of relating open up, trust is sort of like undercurrent of the absolute truth of how you feel. And when we get into a relationship based on an absolute yes, let's talk about that for a second. It wasn't like I pursued you or you pursued me. It was nothing like that. It was like one day all of a sudden there were two people in the same field and there was an attraction. And so we both trusted that, and we have kept trusting it. And I was in a relationship that had just broken up, and you've had some past relationships, and all of a sudden it was like we have been moving cautiously and slowly, more compassionately, more consciously, slowly, to really be real with what we're feeling and what our ideas are, and our, the ways we've gotten hung up before.
Yeah, and even ways we've gotten hung up, with each other, and just being honest about that. And here's some of the comments that we have around this, trusting yourself to trust the process in the present moment. And then also Matthew, divine internal twin flame, then external twin flame naturally flows. And that reminds me, did you bring the book in here of...
I don't have The Gift is Listening here, no.
Oh, okay.
For those of you that don't know, there have been 7 books that have come through this channel, and one is called The Gift is Listening. It's an enlightened relationship guide for men. It works for women as well. Works for anybody, really. But to Matthew's credit, and what he's saying is that the work is inside first, to become the best self that you can. Really let go as much as you can. Really marry yourself. Fall in love with yourself. Become your own twin flame. And then, as a natural occurrence to that deep love from within, can we manifest the external reflection of that?
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of different, opinions or statements and interpretations of twin flame, soulmates, all of these words. And one of the things I really love about the 111, it's the 111 musing. Is it musing?
Yeah, in The Gift is Listening.
In The Gift is Listening, is it really talks about having someone be that really divine reflection of you, that when you get rid of all the scripts and all the stories, that what we end up projecting out from taking care of ourselves first. We're constantly projecting. The question is, what's being sent back to us as the reflection of what we're sending out. And so even that's part of the responsibility. If I look at my past dynamics or relationships, those are all reflections of me, where my consciousness was, where my self-worth was at that moment, and to take full responsibility for that. And then also to go into great gratitude when I can tell that my mind or my heart has changed because I'm bringing new reflections in, and a deep level of appreciation for that.
If you want to know what your inner vibration is like, simply look around your life. Look at the people that you communicate. Look at the people that you see on a regular basis. Look at the company you work with, the people you work with. Look at the people that are intimately involved with you. Look at what is in your room.
Look at what's in your bank account.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, like, look at, everything.
Yeah. And it really is us. We are all living in a projected consciousness. It is us projecting out a consciousness from our heart and having the experience of it. And it's a mystery how on earth you can project and I can project, and we end up in the same. There's an overlap of a projection field, but
Yeah.
you have your own life and I have my own life, and going forward, we don't know, is really about becoming individually empowered and having a deep dedication to the truth of yourself, which means taking 100% responsibility for the entirety of your life. There's no blame goes that anywhere,
Including to ourselves, even because sometimes it's hard to look at that stuff.
Yeah,
We might look at those areas of our lives and say, eek, I don't want to take responsibility for that one. But that's where the innocence comes back in. That's where everyone's responsible, no one's at fault, not getting into that space of judgment towards ourselves or anyone else, but just being able to have the awareness so that we can actually feel empowered to make change.
And then to Barbara's point, I saw her comment earlier. She said, you give up control. So you take 100% responsibility, and you got to give up all control. And that's a really interesting thing, because the only thing that you're left with is, where are your eyeballs? Where's your attention? What are you focusing on? Is my mind making up a story that she's off in a mosh pit with somebody that is going to challenge us? Like, that is under my charge. That is absolutely under my charge. And so a great thing that I've used in the past is, hey, my mind is making up a story that you got something going on in this mosh pit and it's not clean.
Yeah.
And then
I'll be like, it's not. There's beer on the floor everywhere. Everybody's sweating. But no, I mean, I think that's the beauty of it, is creating enough trust to be able to facilitate those conversations where it doesn't have to lead to defensiveness. And part of that is coming from trusting ourselves enough to say, when I get into that space, have I done some work on myself to be able to communicate? To be able to communicate in a way that's not attacking, to be able to communicate in a way that takes responsibility, that says, here's the story I'm creating, because that already allows for the space of, we don't know. I don't know. This is the story I'm creating, but I'm not presuming that I already know that the story I've made up in my head is some sort of fact that now you're responsible for changing. Because that's what we do when we come, with accusations or allegations that come from a place where we've already decided it's a fact. We're not leaving any space for open communication. Now all of a sudden I'm attacking, and someone else is needing to defend themselves against the story I made.
And if you aren't communicating with your partner with transparency, in other words, what's going on in your head, then what you've done is you've just thrown gasoline on the connection, because ultimately that has to come out. You cannot, these things that are coming in other words, can we be courageous enough and bold enough and beautiful enough and humble enough in the connection to say, hey, I am twisted up inside right now and I need some help. Help me get out of this crazy conundrum I'm in about thinking that, there's something else going on that I don't know about. And if we can really look at ourselves and say, yeah, most of these things are self-created, all of them perhaps, and to use the partnership, and I don't like that word use, but to be in the partnership in a way that empowers each individual to see beyond their misconceptions, their misperceptions, their projections, and their own sense of not enough-ness.
Yeah, and you know what I really love about that idea is that then we're actually asking for what we want. So when and this is a huge part of A Course in Miracles as well, which is that idea of don't give what you don't want. Meaning, don't give guilt if you don't want guilt. Don't give attack if you don't want attack. Don't give anger if you don't want anger. We need to stop giving what we don't want, because you know, giving and receiving is the same. So if I'm giving, you know, anger or frustration or blame or upset, and that's what I don't want, but I'm giving that, I'm going to receive what I've given. So all of a sudden I'm coming forward with anger or blame or anything like that. I'm going to receive from the other person what I've just given, which is defensiveness, anger. All of a sudden we've just multiplied rather than asking for what we really want. Because if we've made up that story, what we typically want is we want assurance, we want love, we want a deeper connection. We want to be able to release that fear because it feels like crap to hold on to. That's what we really want. So if we come in and say, hey, I'm feeling really insecure about this right now, what we're asking for is assurance and compassion and love. And we're so much more likely to give that, to receive that from the person actually asking for what we want, because we've just given what we want. We've given honesty. We've given love in that moment by not just assuming, and we get to receive it back.
One of the most amazing things about this incredible universe that we live in is it's all vibrational, and we've all heard this, or a lot of us have. Most of us in the world are bouncing around like it's accidental, you know, but we have this vibrational quality to us that is the attractor to everything in our life. And so everything that comes into our life, person, money, situation, health, all of it is our responsibility. We brought it all, we created all of it. And that's really where this kind of relationship begins and ends, is when we really understand that. We really go beyond understanding it and really get to know it at the very deepest level, that I am the creator. And that beyond that, that in a surrendered state, that the divine is the creator, and we can surrender to that. All of a sudden, that gives us an entirely different playing field, a platform, if you will, to be in this kind of connection, because it makes it very hard to get mad at somebody when you realize it's all you. And then if you realize that I'm upset with you, I can say, all right, I know I'm out of character here. Can we spend a little time to work this out? Or it doesn't have to happen in the partnership. It can happen outside the partnership. But it's a really great place to start from, which is I am the creator of my life. And the divine is doing it through the I am. It's not really even the individual ego of me. So when we take all of the ego out in the I identification, then feels like that's where the magic is.
Yeah, and I think when you go in with an intentionality, which is something that can really happen with you know, connecting on the moon cycles, for example. Because if we're connecting on the moon cycles and we know that every new moon we're going to have a conversation, and that conversation, you know, at a minimum, there's usually quite a few conversations throughout the lunar cycles, like, oh, look at this pattern of the lunar cycle, or at different phases of the moon. But to have that conversation that has intentionality for the next moon cycle, because the thing is when we create a shared vision, we're both, and we communicate that, then we're both accountable to it. We're both, we have a purpose and a mission with our connection that is beyond the I, and it becomes a mutual and shared vision that's about the us, and it's connected to the higher purpose for our connecting. And so there's no way for that not to help iron out some of the obstacles, because it's not two people with their own ideas or fantasies or projections of the future who are silently trying to control or manipulate a situation to get what they want. It's not about the what I want versus what you want. It's what are we trying to create? And that's what we're hoping to also help other people with through this platform. And you know, we know a lot of the people who are already on here are incredibly conscious and beautiful and talented and creative people, but we're wanting to share this in an actual experiential way that says we've done it both ways, and this is we've done it both ways. So there's definitely no judgment. I mean, this is something new.
Well, we're all learning.
Yeah.
Every single person is learning. So if we can let everybody off the hook, even the people that give us the most trouble, maybe, and I want to get back to Matthew's question in a second, so remind me. He's asking, is innocence a veil? Okay, so
Oh, great.
if we can let everybody off the hook, that everybody's doing the best they can, then it makes it a lot easier to have these kind of dialogue, conversations that bring us into our power. And how many times have we been in a relationship where we just stayed in a trip and we didn't know if it was the right thing for us, and we're always into this. We've got to take the responsibility to move the indecision, move the confusion, gain the clarity, do whatever it takes. It's absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth it.
Well, and part of the empowering part is to recognize that not choosing is a choice. There's never a non-action state. You know, it's if you're staying stuck, it's not really stuck. Not choosing is the choice.
Yeah.
You know, and to recognize there isn't that sense of bondage or being stuck or captive. No, we're just in a state of not choosing is my choice right now.
Right.
And wanting to, you know, shift and move that energy to get some action back going, to say, if I'm not vibing how this is going, if I feel like it's draining my energy and there's no vitality, you know, am I willing to own that, bring it up, but also take responsibility that if my life is in this stagnant, challenging place. Actually, around the time we first met, I was here for a weekend, and I picked a page out of A Course in Miracles, and it was about a state of grace. It was a section, State of Grace, and it was saying God's will for us, you know, and it does use typical terminology, so substitute higher power, divine universe, whatever makes you feel peaceful. That God's will for us is perfect peace and happiness. So, of course, if we're experiencing strain in any part of our lives, we're not connecting to that higher power, that higher source, whose will for us is perfect peace and joy. And so I got to honestly look at that in some areas of my life where I'd been feeling incredibly stagnant. And it was amazing because in that moment when I, you know, read that section and realized what it was saying to me, is I made a decision that was like, not choosing isn't a choice I can keep making. And the way things moved and changed from that moment on were incredible and very fast, because the energy was aligning with what I had finally decided. And I just hadn't decided, which means the energy around me had not filtered in, because I had a bunch of conflicting wishes. If you're indecisive, you're wanting a multitude of things to happen. So how's the energy supposed to align to help you get to 3 different destinations that are going to take, you know? No, we have to make a choice.
And this gets us back to the absolute yes. What are you saying yes to? What are we saying yes to? If you say yes to ho-hum, okay, I'll do it because they want me to, then you end up exactly where she was just illustrating.
Yeah.
And so
Strange.
there was no for us. It couldn't be a no. It was impossible to have a no. I mean, I can feel the energy right now. It's so
No.
so beautiful.
There's no.
So, but if that becomes then the template or the standard or the bar of all the yeses going forward, if you're not absolutely heartfully into it and you've got somebody else or a situation that's calling you to be there, don't bother with it. There's so many beautiful people, so many beautiful situations, so many beautiful jobs, so much beauty, so much extraordinary magic on this planet. To say yes to something that doesn't call to your heart is a waste of time, especially going forward into this something new reality.
And it feeds lack mentality. I mean, it feeds lack mentality.
Yeah.
I mean, settling in any area of our lives is saying, oh, well, maybe there's no one else who would love me for this, that, or this, or, you know,
Or
I can't.
another job, you know.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm comfortable, you know, and we have to, how comfortable have we gotten with being in a state of strain? And do we want to stop being so comfortable there?
So what you're illustrating is you're saying that by staying in something that's not an absolute yes, a marginal yes, marginal no, not sure, that's a form of self-abuse.
Yeah, and I think, part of what can be really great about tapping into our higher selves or divine guidance or whatever you want to call it is even asking for that guidance, being in a state of, I don't know. I'm not saying no to anything, but I also don't know, because when I got to that place in that reading with the state of strain and I was like, okay, I need to move forward with something else, I had no idea what that something else was going to be. No idea. And I got a call the next week or the next 2 weeks with a completely new opportunity for, what I'll be doing for work. Within, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 weeks, but what had to happen first was making that decision. But that decision didn't look like now I've already outlined exactly where I'm supposed to go next. Not at all. And that's where the divine guidance came in also. And a lot of times I'll ask about something and I'll get either a yes, a no, or a not yet. Not yet a yes or not yet a no.
Still working through the process to get to, and in the book that came through me called Give Her What She Wants, we talk about getting to the absolute yes. Sometimes there's a process of it. I mean, sometimes if you're in that middle space, get to either an absolute yes or an absolute no. One of the things we talked about yesterday, and we were sort of curious about what we were going to talk about today, was it's like, who are we to say no to this? We have a responsibility to the energy of the heart. The heart is, in my estimation anyway, sort of God's way of calling what is coming into your life. And it works both ways. Something can appear and ignite the heart, and you can also ignite the heart to draw something or someone in. It's totally under your charge. And so who are we to dismiss the responsibility of the heart? If the divine is bringing us a gift, then let's take the gift. I want to go back to Matthew's thing where he said,
Is innocence a veil?
Yeah, is innocence a veil? Great question, I think.
Yeah.
Because pure innocence, there can be no veil in pure innocence. However, can people use I'm innocent or the idea of innocence as a way of sheltering themselves from the truth?
Yeah, or not being in that state of absolute responsibility, right? So it's always about going back to that state of taking responsibility. And so I think, in A Course in Miracles, one of the things that it really says is it says, yes, who we are in our fear, who we are, in that limited, separated self, where those character defects come up. Yes, that fearful state, the way it calls it is it says it's an error. It's an error to be corrected. Because a lot of times what we'll go for is a sin to be punished. And that's the problem when we get into that place of a lot of sin or a lot of guilt, is that energetically we're requesting punishment. And so to get out of that self-sabotaging behavior and mentality, so it's not about acknowledging or being willing to look within ourselves and really see what's there. I think we'll actually be a lot more willing to see what's there if we don't also, if it's not accompanied with a ton of judgment and a ton of anger at ourselves. Instead, it's saying, that's an error that really needs to be corrected. Because I think if we look at, for example, binge eating or something of that nature, which can be common, ice cream, then what might happen is, we eat that whole pint of ice cream, and it's like we think if we feel guilty or bad enough for it, it won't happen again. And that doesn't tend to work, because if I have this not enough story, if I have this not enough narrative, and the only tool I need to use to prove myself right is a pint of ice cream, you catch me on a day where I'm feeling insecure or I'm feeling low about myself, the best way for me to prove myself right?
2 pints.
2 pints of ice cream. Yeah, exactly. It becomes a tool and it becomes a weapon that I use against myself. And so instead of being like, this is an error that I want to correct, it stops becoming that kind of, that compulsive, oh great, I get to prove I'm not enough by texting that ex that, I know I should stay far away from, or whatever our own individual scenarios might be. It's like, oh wow, I use that person to punish myself because I'm feeling like crap about myself today. I'm calling that family member who always tells me that I should be further along in my career or job by now. And it's like, why did I call them when I'm already feeling low? because they were an easy tool and an easy weapon I could use against myself.
They validated the story. They validated the story. So how do we create a connection that won't hold a story? That's really what we're talking about here, and this is an incredible exploration because it's relatively new for both of us. We've been practicing it. We've been looking for this. We've been in our hearts for a long, long time internally, and now we have this external opportunity to practice the holy.
Yeah, give ourselves the experience of it, right? It's really nice and easy and concepts and ideas, and but then how do we bring it in to the actual experiential learning of it all?
And are you ready, the viewer here, are you really ready for this kind of connection, the kind of connection that opens. And there's a t-shirt that I've created called When Two Hearts Come Together in an Absolute Yes, Trust Becomes the Looking Glass into a New Human Reality. And so rather than making agreements and relationships and commitments out of obligation and have-tos and want-tos and all the rest of it, really doing it from the purity of the connection of the heart. What does the reality look like? And I feel like it looks like a compassionate economy. What does that reality look like when we're not making choices based on money or success or status or fame or wants or all of the rest of it? We're really doing it because, wow, this feels really nice. This really feels good to my heart. And in this feeling in the heart, I'm not thinking about the way I want it to be or the way that, what I'm going to get out of it or what I'm going to miss out of it or all the rest of it.
And it's interesting. I'm in a separate type of program of it's a spiritual program of recovery because I used to be addicted to alcohol and other substances.
What?
I know, you never knew that. So yeah, thankfully I've had neutrality to those things for a number of years now. But one of the really powerful things that the process has you go through is it has you do some real inventory, and it talks about, a fact-finding and fact-facing process. And I think a lot of different types of programs of recovery from a lot of different things, or just as we're doing our own healing work, that's something that has to be done, is taking that honest look at ourselves. It's fact-finding and fact-facing. But the thing is, if you were to quit your job tomorrow, and I were to ask you, what do you do for work? Yesterday you would have said, I am a cashier at Walgreens, or whatever the case may be. But really, that's not who you were. That was a behavior that you were doing. And so why don't we also recognize those things with some of the other fact-finding or fact-facing processes about ourselves to say, oh man, if I say I'm a procrastinator, the truth is that's just a behavior. That's a behavior that I keep doing. And it's partially my own identification of me saying that that's who I am that keeps that behavior going. So if we want something new, I think it's about taking honest look at our past and our behaviors and what we're doing that isn't serving us anymore, but then also working on excommunicating ourselves from the belief of that's who we are, rather than that's just something that we've done in the past.
And I could help you do that.
All right.
But I feel like that's what a good connection is it elevating one another into our potential, Yeah. And I love that. We're the ones carrying the definitions about ourselves around. Can we let go of all the definitions, all the beliefs, and simply be with life as it's happening in the moment? Still take care of our responsibilities, still show up for the obligations that we've committed to, all of those things.
Yeah.
And be so completely in the moment that we're not bound to story, we're not bound to limitation, we're not bound to old identifications, and we can continually step into something new. The challenge about getting into any kind of commitment from a place of obligation and not an absolute yes is that the energy that you go into a connection with in the very beginning is the foundation of the entire situation. So let me say that again. If you get into something because you really didn't, because your mother wanted you to, or you thought somebody might be there, but you didn't feel good that day, that becomes the foundation for that experience. And so how can we then back up, slow down? We're all doing it anyway. It's COVID. We can't do nearly as much stuff as we used to. How can we back up, slow down, and say, I am going to stay absolutely committed to following my heart and being in a pristine connection with myself, first and foremost. And then when I go out into the world can meet me in that way. And from that place, it's very simple to choose where to go from there, because you simply go with what feels good. Feels good right here in the heart.
Well, and I think, we're seeing such a spectrum of that experience, and I'm sure you all can relate personally, or also through people who are in your experience, that, I've run into many people who are saying, 2020 is the worst year of their lives and their experience, and that, everything's awful, and everything's being put off into the future. Okay, when things go back to normal, when this happens in 2021, if there's a vaccine, all these things that are saying, here's all these potentialities that I'm holding on to for when things revert back to a place they're never going, it's not likely going to be the exact same. We are not going to be going back into the exact same. But I've also met some people who have said, and my personal experience has been 2020 has been a transformative year that has had an incredible amount of joy, an incredible amount of love. The joy has looked different, right? So it's like, I did have to be willing to be open to, I don't get to go into mosh pits anymore. Yeah, it doesn't look like going to I guess I still did go to Las Vegas once, but it doesn't look like going to nightclubs in Las Vegas or previous ideas that we had of what fun is. But when I'm so attached to the past, I can't enjoy the potentialities that are available right now, because they don't compare to what I would prefer for things to be. And Matthew would like you to pull a card at some point.
That's a good word.
And that 2020 is Matthew's best year also.
I know,
so,
it's been a fabulous year. Wow, what introspection and growth, and amazing. I mean, if you came to the River House right now, you would see exquisite art, and it's really just come up this year. It's been amazing. We had one of the best parties we've ever had. I believe that was the best party I'd ever been to in my life. So just because the rest of the world is maybe locked in fear, this is an incredible, unique, powerful time to open up the heart and simply say yes to life. How can I say yes to life? Get on your knees if it takes. Surrender to God. Surrender to the divine and say, Holy Spirit, you be in charge.
And Barbara's favorite year either, so give me a high five for Barbara. Yes, some of us are killing it, having a great time, and that's okay. And guess what? Even if you're going through those challenges, those dark times, it could still be the best year ever.
Yeah.
For all the healing opportunities, for everything you're getting to do, there's still that potentiality as well.
Gosh, can we get away from the opinion of things being good or bad, right or wrong? I mean, once I figured out that my depression was trying to enlighten me, it became an entirely different thing. Years and years and years ago, this depression would just knock me sideways, and now I can move through it, relatively quickly when it happens, and it's a gift. And I think that's what Matthew was alluding to earlier. Everything that happens to us is a gift. How quickly can we find the gift in it and open our heart to what life is trying to give us in that moment? Not even trying to give us, but actually giving us. All right, what's our card?
We got TikTok, and guess what number it is?
I can't see it.
Okay, well, it's 30, which is 3 in numerology. And so 3 is not surprising at all. So that's what we've talked about a lot, is the power. I mean, we first connected, it was a lot about the idea of the power of 3. So you, me, and then divine.
Yeah.
That's the power of 3, and that's what we want to stay focused on, is that. And so, do you want me to read?
TikTok.
And then do you see the hand? Here, we should show them what it is. For me, it's saying the time is now.
Time is now. I don't know that you need to read it. I think that's pretty good. The time is now.
If you see this card, it's the 2 hands, and it's just like the time is just bursting out. It's saying, and that goes right along with what we were just talking about. The time isn't later. The time isn't after things get back to a certain amount of normal. The time to follow your heart and your passion and your purpose doesn't have to wait till we get off Zoom. It's
every single person that puts their life off till the end of the pandemic. Meanwhile, there's all these other people that are like doing the best art of their life and meditating more. They're working out more. They're taking care of themselves in better and better ways. This is the time. And Barbara has been a great teacher to me, and we've had a conversation each week, and she just keeps encouraging, go deeper, go inside, get down into the nitty gritty, let go, surrender. You know, a new order is coming about. This is the most exciting time in all of humanity, and I feel like it's really important. Three is a catalyst for change through spiritual dynamics, says Rhonda.
Oh, nice.
And Matthew says this is a decent first show.
Thanks, Matthew.
No,
I'm reading the comments too. So.
And we didn't know, and we didn't prep much.
No.
We don't even spend that much time together.
Yeah. That's true. Well, and that's really the challenge is, and the challenge was actually the opportunity. You know, what's interesting is the challenge was the opportunity. The challenge was when we start off with a name like We Don't Know. It's like, what are we going to talk about? And then each of us would just make a joke of it and be like, we don't know. You know, we don't know.
Where's
we're
this
not
relationship
saying no to
going?
it. We're saying yes. You know, we're saying yes that we're going to do it, but we don't know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what it's going to be
Yeah.
for or about. And then that's where, you know, at the beginning, we also were like, okay, Holy Spirit, be you in charge.
And we don't know what the world's going to look like post-COVID. We don't know. We don't know anything. And can we find freedom in not knowing? And can we find freedom in not saying no to life right now, saying yes to the feeling of the heart? Tremendous, tremendous opportunities of freedom. And sometimes that means you've got to face your greatest insecurities. But if not now, when? If not now, when? When are we going to face our greatest insecurities?
And we might have had this idea, like, you know, a
12.
while ago, and so procrastination might have already happened, but it's like, but that's where that's the beautiful thing about transparency, to be able to say, oh, hey, here are some of my fears and insecurities coming up around this. We found out we had the exact same insecurities and fears that were coming up around it. It might be in individual circumstances or different dynamics, but it was the same.
Doing this show is what you mean,
yeah.
Right.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah.
Doing this show, and so to have that conversation actually completely moved the resistance. And what do you know, within a few days of having that conversation, we had our page up and we had this booked and planned, and now it's moving along.
The show was actually conceptualized within the first week of us meeting, and it was so fast, so sudden, that what it really did was it brought up some insecurities, is what she's saying, that we had to work through. And what a great first test to our connection, because it was like, we did end up here. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Hey,
okay.
yeah, we did it. We're here and we're getting to connect with you guys, and that's.
Oh, it's Masood. Masood's coming to the River House. He is one of the most compassionate, beautiful men I've ever known in my life. We recorded and produced some forgiveness music together in Nashville, Tennessee many years ago. He'll be here on December 2nd. So anybody can get to the River House on December 2nd and 3rd. To see Masood and Dina, and I can promise you the most beautiful, compassionate music you've ever heard.
Yay.
And just an absolute super time. So,
oh my gosh, and we've been enjoying so much music.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Habib's been here playing his sitar all week, so
it's incredible.
We just have dinner and somebody's playing the sitar for us. It's pretty sweet.
We're like doing some work and then just like, oh my gosh, it's been so beautiful.
By the way, life can be pretty amazing. Life can be fantastically beautiful, and we can all be coming into our own. If we can choose, regardless of our opinion about our current state of affairs, we can make a choice to see that we have brought ourselves to the exact perfect spot with the absolute best opportunity, with absolutely every resource is available to us, because this is a vibrational universe. We're coming into a new awareness about this now. Even if you're on this show, to know that anything is possible. Not to believe it, not to trust it, not to want it, not to hope so, not to one day think that anything's possible, but to actually embody it now and say, no, anything's possible when I let go of my stories, when I let go of my mind, and when I open up the heart and follow the feeling.
Well, and I think a lot of that relates back again to the worthiness idea that's like, okay, I can't accept this healing now, but I'm going to have to do a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of therapy. And hey, it may actually take all, it might take all those things. It's not to discount that. But when we set up those demands that it has to take a long time, that it has to take a lot of hard work, that's a story we have in our head, and we won't let ourselves receive it otherwise. And so if we were to say, I am willing to accept as much healing in the situation as is available to me now, that leaves it that I don't know. But also I want to accept as much healing, as much growth, as much abundance, as much peace as is available to me now, instead of saying, I'll be okay if, I'll feel better when, my life will improve after,
And what you're really talking about there is a timeline. What you said was, the last time I got into therapy, the last time I was in a breakup, the last time I chose for myself, it was painful, it was long, and it was brutal. And so I don't want to go there again. And so if we can take the timeline out of it, and we can learn to be efficient with our healing, and efficient with our language, and efficient with our love, then we don't have to suffer. Suffering it brings us closer to God. That was the belief that I was brought up in. My father was very clear about that. The more you suffer, the closer you are to God. And there's some truth to that. And then there's a way to become attached to suffering.
Yeah.
And there's a way to move beyond suffering. And there's a way to move very efficiently this this contrast in the heart, this confusion in the mind, and let it all go. And we can step into something new beautifully and amazingly well. We have the tools to help you. We have the tools to help ourselves. And lots and lots of beautiful, beautiful things are happening all around the world that are making our human experience more joyful, more beautiful, more compassionate, and quite frankly, just amazing.
And so one of the things Matthew said was define healing. And then right after that, my Rhonda, I always want to say my mom. I am claiming her though, especially after I read the comment. But, healing can be an instant when you see the solution to the perceived conflict. And one of the things, she's a Course in Miracles student too, and it says, recognize the problem so the problem can be solved. So the thing is a lot of times the reason why we feel healing can't happen is because there wasn't closure with someone else, or things didn't pan out that way, or things, how am I supposed to...
That's another form of self-flatulation.
Yeah. How am I supposed to heal from that financial loss I had at work until I get to where I was, or even better financially? So all of a sudden, we're thinking that the problem is outside of ourselves. And so if I think the problem is outside of myself, then I can't accept the healing or the translation of that until these external things move or shift or change. So instead, the idea of healing could be recognize the problem so the problem can be solved. And the problem is often how I'm perceiving that situation, that I'm perceiving it as, the not enough story. I'm perceiving it as I'm not lovable. I'm perceiving it as I'm not enough if I don't have this amount of money or status, or if this person doesn't like me. Whatever the situation might be, we all have our own. Until I'm this body weight, or have, this much muscle. It's like we can create so many things that postpone our ability to change and transform because it's so dependent on the things outside of ourselves.
Yeah. Wow.
I know. Well, guess what? We were worried that there was no way we were even going to hit an hour. And so we're actually only 8 minutes away from 4:44, which is what we had said when we would end. So.
Oh, wow. This has been so fun. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
And please let us know what sort of topics or things you are interested in us talking about in the future. This was definitely a lot of ad lib and, just curiosity and creativity, but also, there's tons of situations that we could, address more specifically per what the people want.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the people want.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know.
But we
you
won't
can let
know
us
you.
know.
If you tell us, we won't say no.
Oh, you want to hear? Here, we have to make sure that we also mention our username. So we created the page, We Don't Know. And then when we tried to create the username for We Don't Know, it went to this, person who had taken that name, We Don't Know, and there wasn't much going on the page except for like, if you want to win $1 million, call this number. And so our username is We Do Not Know.
We do not know.
We do not know.
Donut.
We don't say no to donuts.
No.
That's another thing. So
No.
if you end up coming to the River House, or if I end up seeing you, we don't say no to donuts. We do not know. T-shirts may be coming soon. No,
Yeah.
but that is another thing.
And we'll put some links to some products and services that we both have that we feel inspired to share with the community, with you, with the world, and
and some of that, I'm sure in the future we may kind of like bring up some of the books, and I wish I know we did reference, is it The Gift is Listening?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll actually bring that onto the next one, because I know I definitely did not paraphrase that correctly, about a new definition of twin flame that really resonated, and it was on 111, which is the 3, and so I don't know, I feel really connected to that one.
follow the signs.
Follow the signs.
Follow the signs. When your heart is open, your vibration is high, the universe is always speaking to us. It's always guiding us and showing us where to go, what to say. And all we have to do is slow down a little bit and open our heart. So if you feel like you aren't seeing the signs, you aren't being guided, it's a signal just to stop and do some work. Get some tears out. Do some journaling. Whatever it takes. Clear your palate. Open up the heart. Once you open up the heart, life is going to take you away again. You're just back in the river and flowing peacefully with what wants to happen.
And that's the gift is listening. If you think about just kind of that idea, the gift is listening. So let's listen to what our environment is telling us. Let's listen to if we're really experiencing a bunch of stagnancy and a lack of peace. Let's listen if we're saying, where's the joy in my life and my experience? Let's listen. Let's let ourselves feel guided by the heart to where we want to go next. Oh, so great to see you, Andy, joining us from the UK.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're going to have to get a better screen, or I'm going to have to get better glasses, one of the two.
Yeah, better screen or better glasses will, you can read better far away, I feel like, with some of the things, and I'm more of a close-up, but soon on the site we'll have the Love Lingo website up there, and there's some, cool shirts, like the idea everyone's responsible, no one is at fault. I love that it has the American flag on it, because imagine if during these times where we've seen so much division, so much animosity, if we really got to the place of, which is a lot of what we've been talking about in a variety of ways today, which is everyone's responsible, no one is at fault. These are errors to be corrected, not sins to be punished, not blame to be, projected. This is about...
we can change the world.
Yeah.
We really can. We can do it collectively with that one statement. Everyone is responsible. No one
one's
is at fault.
And so thanks for joining us on our journey. It's been so beautiful to connect with you guys. We have 3 minutes left to go. Thanks, Mom / Rhonda. So we have 3 minutes left.
I think I just saw Mickey Cameron come on.
Oh, Mickey.
Yeah.
Yay.
The hugging whore.
The hugging whore. Yeah, we missed you.
That's a Halloween. That's not real. That's Halloween.
Yeah, don't hit up her messenger. Don't hit up her messenger.
Yeah. And look, it's a funny world out there. Everybody's really. It's interesting to watch people get into their fear minds, and groups of people. But here at the River House, we really still have our doors open and our arms open and our hearts open. And we're still doing small events, and we're still creating art. We are still serving dinners. We are still meditating. We are still loving one another. We are doing all those things. We're still here. And if you feel compelled to get in a car, on an airplane, and come visit and really take a load off and slow down and open your heart, that's our specialty. And we're actually quite adept at it. A lot of practice.
Yeah, a lot of people who come from a variety of different places and different skills, and you know, when you were just bringing up the idea of, we see there's this wide spectrum. The thing about being in the place where you're following your heart and you're following your joy is that you don't have to judge anybody else's. So for example, if I don't want to take responsibility for my choice, meaning that if I have just been cooped up for 6 months, I haven't left my house at all, and I'm dissatisfied with it, then I'm going to, of course, be upset when I see anyone else representing a different choice. Because they're representative of the fact that there is a choice. But the same exact person could be in complete responsibility and in joy for their choice and saying, you know what, I'm doing the right thing for me, I'm doing the right thing for my health, I'm doing the right thing for my family, I honor and respect what I've chosen. It's not about how it externally comes out in this behavior or that behavior. It's, are we in joy for the choice we've made, and then also taking full responsibility for the choice that we've made.
And there are no wrong choices.
No.
And that's what the labyrinth teaches us, that there really aren't any choices at all. It's really simply one path of an infinite numbers of nows, an infinite number of nows connecting. And if we follow the heart, keep the mind out of it, it's amazing how less bumpy that road becomes.
Thank you guys
Thank you so much.
And we will look forward to connecting with you again at some time that we don't know yet. So
We don't know.
We don't know. Bye.